Hi, I'm Darlene from Leonardo, here to give you a quick recap of a webinar I recently hosted on how to thrive in today's complex travel shopping journey. Joined by guest speakers Alan Young from Puzzle Partner and Greg Bodenlos from the Charles Hotel, we discussed strategies to help you tell a compelling story and stand out to travel shoppers during their journey. We talked about the importance of quality content in producing higher levels of engagement. Alan provided some great advice on how to communicate the guest experience to travel shoppers on your website. Greg then spoke about how he, as brand marketing manager for the Charles Hotel, is leveraging social media to develop lasting and impactful relationships with both travel shoppers and guests on property.
I think at the end of the day, you stop selling and start telling. You start really working on things that focus on the experiential side of what you're delivering to your guest. At the end of the day, if you go to a Hilton, Hyatt, Marriott, Starwood, etc., and within their certain market segments, you're going to stay in a room that's very similar to a number of any other rooms. So what you really need to do is to pull out the nuggets of what you do exceedingly well and start talking about them to your guests. But what it really boils down to is the more engaging content you can deliver to the guest, the more likely you are to have them reserve on your own proprietary sites. The websites themselves need to be inviting. They need to deliver emotional engagement and be super easy to navigate. So as we continue to work with companies that produce websites and booking engines, etc., you need to be leaning on the ones that are incredibly easy to use and navigate. And make it easier and more compelling for guests to use your own site than those of other sites. When you go onto an OTA site, when you go onto a meta-search site, when you go onto a last-minute booking site, the navigation on those sites is primarily the same. However, there is something that's a little bit different, and that is the use of review content in order for people to make a decision. So I would suggest that a lot of companies today and a lot of hoteliers start reproducing this review content on their own proprietary sites. At the end of the day, you're going to get people that are uber price sensitive and will go to the lowest common denominator, which is price. But if you can go ahead and show the prospective guest certain things within your property that you can leverage to show differentiation versus your competitive set, etc., and tell great stories about that, and show fantastic images, and really kind of dovetail that into a full storytelling environment, then you have a much, much better chance at attracting that guest and closing the deal, so to speak, than you would if it is price only. So once again, the attractiveness and inviting nature of your website, ease of use, the amount of content on there, the openness of the content, I think is incredibly important. People purchase on price, but they also purchase based upon emotions. And with that in mind, it's one of those things that if you can create that relationship connection with your guest even prior to arrival, then you've exceeded their expectations even before they walk through the front door. Client advocacy is becoming incredibly important, and client advocacy solutions such as Flip2 that are out there today that really create an organic effect of growth from your guests. While your guests are talking about where they're staying, why they're staying with you, and they're blasting that out to their group of friends on Facebook, and it's almost a cultivation effect. There's also meta review data that you need to take a look at as a hotelier in today's marketplace. Individual reviews are the types of reviews where people will give you reams and reams of information about their stay. Meta reviews are all based upon the aggregate, i.e., 76% of the people like this hotel for its location, 35% really didn't like the pool, those kind of things. And I believe most every review content provider or aggregator out there today in the market has a capability to give you this type of information so you can go ahead and put it on your website.
So to jump right in, just to again kind of reiterate some of the points and give some specific examples of what Alan was talking about leveraging social storytelling on your website. At the end of the day, that is the number one issue or the number one opportunity that most hoteliers either miss or aren't taking advantage of enough. One example that I have here on the screen here is actually a project that we spearheaded here at the Charles Hotel. We're an independent property. We have a big commitment to social media and do a lot of active social listening. But something that I realized when I joined the team a year ago is that we were missing the opportunity to really bring that social content onto our website, because at the end of the day, that is where travelers are, of course, booking. They're not necessarily booking on Facebook or Twitter. The purchase intent really happens when they're exploring our website. So we introduced what we call the Social Lounge. We worked with our web agency that we have a partnership with in California to build a very simple kind of one-page dynamic page that actually integrates all of the real-time Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram posts that we post across property. And we are a property that has also multiple restaurants, a jazz club, as well as a full-service hotel. So this, as you can imagine, is a really great place for some of our shoppers when they're looking at what their experiences may look like at the Charles. This is a great place to really see that. This is another kind of representation, again, of what that social lounge looks like, which, by the way, is also accessible via mobile and tablet. One thing to note here is on the bottom right side of the screen that you look at actually the content breakdown that we look at on a kind of weekly, monthly basis. We leverage a platform called Sprout Social for our social listening and to manage social media. And one thing that we're very aware of as marketers and social storytellers is understanding the kind of mix of our content. And as you can see, and this is a mix of content across all social platforms, but as you see, the vast majority of our posts and content are photo-driven. That is by intent. That is 100% deliberate, because at the end of the day, what we've seen when we measure our success and when we try to benchmark our key performance indicators with our social media output, we've seen that we see a lot higher engagement on photo-driven content. Video is becoming a lot more important, which we're not going to get to today, but that's a whole other conversation that we, as you see on the screen, are not actually taking advantage of as well as we could. But photos are 100% important. And as you see on the screen, and as I'm going to break it down in the next couple of slides, you're going to see the kind of photos that you post are extremely important. So this, again, a nice segue to what Alan was talking about, but just to kind of put a more finer point on it, the social storytelling, or the storytelling in general, let's just even take social media kind of out of the equation and just talk about your content that you're putting out there on your website, needs to be unique to your own property. At the end of the day, Alan is 100% right in saying that a bed is a bed, a room is a room. We are in a hotel business where at the end of the day, the core offering is even if you are a Four Seasons or a Hampton Inn, you still have a bed, you still have a bathroom. There are certain things about that experience that are standardized across all brands, whether you're limited service or full service. But the differentiation happens with then what is actually going on with the guest outside of just that hotel room. And that's where there's a huge opportunity, to speak to Darlene's point, to really shift and convince your customers to book with you, because there are, of course, things that are unique about your property. They just need to be amplified through your content marketing. As you see on the top left, or the left side of your screen, we take a lot of photos of our colleagues driving. This was actually a photo that I just ran up to the concierge desk and say, Patrick, you're going to be on Instagram. Is that cool? Cool. And the reality is that I identified Patrick as one of our best performing colleagues because he is mentioned in reviews. And our guests really enjoy his warm and inviting service. They recognize him because he's one of our frontline associates. Let's make sure that he is recognized and known as part of our social storytelling, because you know what? That is going to be a part of the guest experience. On the right side of the screen, you see that we do have some food and beverage offerings on the top right side of the screen, as well as the bottom right screen, which is, again, we have some live music that we have on property. But these were photos that were taken with an iPhone that were done, day of the moment. Chef had produced something interesting that we thought, okay, this is a delicious looking donut. Let's take a picture of that. And as we're going to see in a couple other slides, some of this inspiration happens from real examples that our consumers, our guests, are writing about on online reviews and in social media. So that is a lot of where the inspiration comes when we try to figure out how to know and emphasize our own strengths. One other exercise that I would encourage all hoteliers to do, if you haven't already, is by looking at that front desk and looking at, again, who are the frontline associates, who are making the first impressions, who are those rock star performers that your guests really love, and who has the wealth of area knowledge about your destination that then can be amplified and repurposed and reused and used in advance of a guest stay. There's 100%, I can't imagine any property not being successful by at least having one or two people on staff that know the area, that have great local recommendations, that then by sharing those recommendations with your audience, you become an even closer part of that guest experience. And that is a reason why people will choose you over others. But this screen grabs here on the screen is actually a real example of what we use. Part of how we use Revenate at the property at the Charles is being able to leverage sentiment analysis. So analyzing all of the dozens and dozens of reviews that come across on TripAdvisor and Expedia and Booking.com and everything else. What Revenate does for us is it actually analyzes all of that content for us and then gives a qualitative, very just kind of succinct analysis about, okay, Greg, 65% of all of the mentions about service, as you look on the top right, or 61% of all the mentions across the property are positive. Well, okay, that's but I really want to drill down further. You can do that within the platform. And the point here is that what we realize about our hotel is that our number one strength is our location, the surrounding area. So we are right by Harvard University at our property. We are the closest property to the university. How do we really reinforce that strength? How do we use this data that we have, this verification, validation from consumers that say, I love your surrounding area, and how does that then get amplified in our content marketing strategy? You know, another way, in addition to leveraging online reviews and to really do active social listening, is to encourage your guests to interact. I mean, again, nothing that we're sharing here today is really, truly rocket science, but it really just takes a commitment and a dedicated resource or resources to do that active listening. So the screen grabs on the screen here show that in our, on our Twitter bios, it includes hashtags for guests to use when they're on property. More importantly, the middle screen is actually printed collateral that we're still using to make sure that guests, when they visit Regatta Bar or when our jazz club or when they visit the front desk, they know that we are active on social, that we want them to interact with us. This is, of course, one part of the whole overarching way of getting more attention to your property. Another exercise I would encourage everyone on the phone to do is to walk around your property, pretend you're a guest for a minute, and be able to see how many touch points there are when you enter your property in terms of, okay, where are there signage opportunities, or where are there, where is the guest's eye going when they come into the property, and of course what's appropriate for your brand. And I understand a lot of properties, if you're with a brand, you might be limited in terms of standards and all of that, but that's where we've done that exercise, and we realized that there was valuable real estate visually to use both on our signage around the hotel, but of course when you're visiting the venue, it's a no-brainer to have a few pieces of printed collateral on the table when a guest enters the property. Like, thinking about some of the challenges hotels come up with, oh, my property there's nothing sexy about it. Again, I don't have cute kids and puppies at my property, or I don't have a jazz club. I don't have this or that. What we do have, again, is your local destination. There's a reason why your property exists. Maybe it was years ago when an asset manager decided to build it there, but it exists for a reason. There's value there, and your local destination, even if you're in a suburban market, there's something unique going on there. So really promoting your local destination. This example here, I'm in New England, the 4 seasons, spring, summer, fall, winter. It's very much a part of our brand story. Guests need to know about it. They love it. These are photos that I took on an iPhone, promoting just our local within 15-minute walk. You can go and have each of these looks throughout the year. And this was something we put on Instagram. We're leveraging it also on our website. It's a great way to, again, be a part of your destination story.
I really hope you enjoyed this recap. If you'd like to learn more strategies on how to thrive in today's complex travel shopping journey, be sure to watch the full webinar on demand.